yourself to become unstuck. This week, you and I are sharing about to unstuck. Let's say you ever have a challenge, a problem that you feel that you're stuck. You're just thinking about it, you're trying to solve it, and all this thing, and you just gonna like, you just cannot move past this. The first thing that we shared yesterday for you, if you're facing something that you're stuck at, is to decide if it is even something you want to embark. It's to see it as if it's an exam. It's an exam or a test. Now, knowing that many things in life, for the reasons there is an exam is there is a magnificent reward if you decide to keep going with it. But not everybody choose to do that. There are many people, for instance, who went through residency, medical residency, and then at the end they decide not to take the exam. It's not making the bad or good. It's just everybody's choices. And so decide that if it is something that you feel that worth your time and energy, or perhaps it's something that actually the intended to help you realize that, you know what, after all, this is not something that I want to do, and there is something else much more life-giving, which is awesome for you. And if you decide that whatever that you feel stuck, that it's something that you would love to actually move through, move past, move beyond it, and to triumph from it, then another tools that is very, very helpful for you in being able to solve your challenge that seemingly like perhaps a mammoth problem right now, is to actually make use of the dining room table. And one thing that's common that you might have heard actually is something that Bob Proctor taught a lot of people who has studied from him. Bob Proctor, so you might have heard his name, is a very well-known personal development guru. He was in this movie The Secret. And one thing Bob taught us is actually to write down whatever the problem that you have on a piece of paper, on a blank, get a blank piece of paper, a full size paper, write it down, put it in the middle of the table, kind of like this table here, and then walk around it, and walk around and look at it from, say, at least 4 different angle, 8 different angle, or even more. And each stop, you actually stop and say, how can I look at this differently? Okay, if I look at it from this angle, and then you can even ask, if you stop and you say, okay, if I were to be looking at this from this angle, how could I look at it differently? And what would, let's say, Bob Proctor says about this, and move to the next step? And what would President Kennedy says about this, and move to the next step and say what Einstein says about this, and you keep going around like that. And you don't necessarily need to have a nice good sized table like this. You can have a smaller table. I have my dining room table is seat 4 at the maximum 6. It's a small round table, and even so, you can just like take a step here and look around and around and around and around. So that's one thing that you can do. In addition to that, another thing that I find work very well for my client as well as myself, particularly when you do that, and this is something that happened with me this past week, where I did that. I put down what it is that I need to work on, and look at it, ram. I was like, yeah, it still doesn't happen. And so what you can do is you can take benefit of things such as this little thing here called the post-it note, or you can just make little pieces of paper, or you can get one of those 3 by 5 or 3 by 5 or something, even card, those 3 by 5 card. And you can even if you don't have any of this, you're like, I don't have post-it note and I don't have whatever thingy card. One thing that you can do and have worked very well for me is you get a piece of paper, a regular piece of paper, fold it in 4, cut it into 4 pieces. Sometimes you might even cut it into 6 little pieces or something. And then what you do is you put your your challenge, your opportunity, your problem, whatever you want to call it at this moment. It might still feel like a problem for you. So just call it a problem. It might, if it still feels like a problem for you, and you can also choose by now as an exam or an opportunity, and write it down on a piece of paper and put it on one. And then what you do is you do everything you possibly can to make it a bite size. So if this is a big mammoth problem here, what little component of that can you find? And whatever component you could find, you write it down on your little piece of paper. And you could even, if you start identifying two different groups, for instance, of components to your problem, your challenge, then you might, if you have, you might even do something like different color pen or different color paper. And there is a reason so that you can benefit from the different color. And so, and then you can even use it. Say you said, oh, okay, so now I'm seeing that there's this big problem here, and then there's this smaller problem, and then each of them has little thing. You can put one type of paper for this, and then a different type of paper if you happen to have, say, stock paper, stock paper, and then you have different paper that's of this consistency, and then a different printing of the consistency. You can use different paper, different color, and all these things. And then why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do this? There are multiple benefits doing that. The first is, if you have whatever the challenge you have and you put it in multiple different, so now you actually have a bunch of little pieces here. You can have this, and you have this, and then you might even have another multiple other piece if you have a challenge there. So, and what you can do is you can say, okay, one going here, and this is your initial, and initially perhaps you might say, oh, it goes like this and like this and like this. But now you have little pieces, you can actually move things around, and there is something between it. There is a kinetic, this is all biology here, a little bit of biology for you tonight as well. This is all kinetic, but there is something with the biology. When you move things around, in addition to actually just you going around the table, when you're able to grab it, hold this problem here, and move it around and move it around, it all this register to different part of your nervous system. Every single different movement, like kind of like trigger or let up different part of your nervous system. So if you're able to, initially you think it's all going like that, and now you're like, oh, okay, actually I can see if I move this into here, what would that be? Or perhaps if I go it like that, what would that be? And when you are able to do that, you utilize different part of your nervous system. And when you are able to do that, the different color register to different color uses different part of your brain. We know that very, very well. And when you are seeing things differently, now you're seeing squares and shapes of your paper and perhaps different color. It uses very different part of your brain than the one that is just thinking. It uses different part of your brain than the one that's just reading what you write, because the color trigger different thing. And when you are able to kind of utilize every single part of your brain, and even better if you have different texture of paper, for instance, you can even once I actually have a client, I have a client uses paper towels. It's just like, okay, I have different, I'm like, okay, come on, you got different paper towels. She use different type of, she use paper towel, and you use napkin that she happen to have, and then regular paper and a post-it note. and and with the paper towels used with she wrote with a Sharpie. And when you use different texture paper, it stimulates, guess what, the part that of you that almost never people use when solving problem, called your sensory, your touch is sensory, and it trigger completely different part of your brain. And so all these things are meant when you are doing this. And if you do that and you move the things around, again, the motion, even just the motion of your hand, or if you use your feet, what have you, it triggers different part of your brain. If you do that and you walk around the table, for instance, that's also trigger different part of your brain. And when you are using multiple different parts, we come in multiple different way, right? We have all these different sensory, the eye sees different things and using different part. Well, let's make use of that. Let's have you make the best use of that, and that is by utilizing them. And this is one way to truly utilizing just even that, just even by writing down at your dining room table, you can use it to the max. You can maximize your ability to solve your challenge, to solve your problem, and turn it into an opportunity. Give it a try if you are facing challenge, any challenge right now. It could be work related, it could be a relationship opportunity, it could be health, it could be something else, and you could also just yourself try it out for fun. And so give it a try if you'd like to. And if you ever have challenge, if you have challenge that you kind of stuck with, and you just really you discover something that works super duper for you, please feel welcome to share it in the comment below as well. That way we can continue learning from each other. And feel welcome to share your feedback in the comment below, as well as if you'd like to share this video, since they help a lot of people nowadays are facing a lot of challenge, so maybe they can solve their challenge. This is actually one of the steps. I'll share a couple more steps the rest of this week. But if you make things into bite size, make things into bite size, so it's no longer scary. And again, it work with your nervous system. A lot of biology and nervous system today, and it work a lot with your nervous system, because if your nervous system thinking that, oh God, you have this big problem, it's almost like a big boulder stuck in front of you, and you like behind it, and you're like, I can't even see how I'm going to either go under or go over or what have you. Then you feel stuck. Naturally, you feel stuck. On the other hand, if you make it into bite size, now you might have this thing in front of you, but you now notice that this seemingly big thing here is actually, instead of a big giant boulder that's unmovable, it's made out of a bunch of little gravels. Little gravels come in that you break it down. And now your nervous system will be able to say, oh, okay, so this thing is pesky. It might be pesky, it might be inconvenient, it might be taking time, but it is not impossible. You make it from, you change it from an impossible, unsurmountable, what have you, to, okay, it's inconvenience, it's pesky, and it might be time consuming. And at the same time, you can say, okay, I'm going to start removing gravel right now. I'm going to dig. And before you know it, this whole thing going to collapse down. And then you can just simply climb over it. And then you might even say, oh, okay, well, I can see that this is actually composed of this multiple different component of problem. And let me see which one can I delegate. And you might choose to delegate some part of it and not deal with it yourself. And so please share in the comment below if you have any experience, if you have any feedback on this, and feel welcome to share this video. And this is Bridget with Joyful Riches Beyond Grief. I love you very much. I see as you practice this, you are able to create even more spectacular, awesome success that yet allow you to create an even more wonderful, joyful, thriving life, one day at a time, and a beautiful, thriving life as a whole. And I love you very much, and I look forward to see you again very, very soon. If you like this video, please click like, as well as please click subscribe, so you'll continue receiving update from this, and I'll see you again very, very soon.